Hello and welcome from the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, where we've just discovered who's received the 2010 Sveriges Riksbank Prize in Economic Sciences in memory of Alfred Nobel. With me to discuss this prize is Professor Per Krusell, member of the Economics Prize Committee. Professor Krusell, thanks very much for talking to us. Could we begin by you telling us who's received this year's prize in economic sciences?
Yes, it was awarded to Peter Diamond, who is at MIT in the United States, Dale Mortensen, who is at Northwestern in the United States, and Christopher Pissarides, who is at London School of Economics.
And what have they received the prize for?
The official line is for their analysis of markets with search frictions.
To understand this prize, we have to understand the dynamics of the labour market. So could you, in simple terms, tell us what search frictions are and what their impact is on the labour market?
Right, so search frictions exist in many markets, but as you noted, the most important example is the labour market. And in the labour market, the search frictions show up because workers are looking for jobs that are suitable to them, and this is a process that takes time. Similarly, employers are looking for potential workers, and they also are looking for specific workers. And so this process of matching the two together is referred to as frictions, search frictions. And that's an important element behind why we have unemployment, because when it takes time, you will have unemployed workers and vacancies, unfilled jobs.
So search frictions is the sort of time and resources it needs to fill job posts and for people to apply for posts and be interviewed and for jobs to be accepted.
Exactly. So because that process takes time, the Laureates thought in the 1970s, and we just heard Professor Pissarides describe how he started in the 70s with an interest in understanding why the unemployment rate was going up so fast in many European countries. So he thought we have to think about this, it's a huge problem, it's a social problem. What determines why it's going up so fast, and he discovered that there was no fully appropriate theory for thinking about how the unemployment rate was determined as a result of this costly search. So he started working on that, and Peter Diamond and Dale Mortensen did the same thing on the other side of the Atlantic.
So you said there was no sort of real theory to describe what was going on. What did economists think before the three laureates published their groundbreaking work?
I think the idea that there are frictions, the idea has perhaps been around, but it had not been developed into a coherent, complete theory to really think about all the important components in the labor market. So one is the worker perspective and the firm perspective, another one is how they're matched together, and the third one is whether this market works well or not. And I think these questions were mainly not addressed. So they have their work has allowed us to think coherently about all these important issues.
So was the labour market perceived by economists to be like any normal supply and demand market?
I think a bit more like that. This is not the only possible theory of unemployment. I mean, you can imagine that for some reason wages are too high, and then that will create unemployment. And then we have to think about why they're too high. But I think it was the first full theory of unemployment and how it evolves over time because of search frictions.
So could you take us through the key insights that the three laureates provided in terms of understanding search frictions in the labour market?
Sure. So Peter Diamond was probably, in some sense, the most influential one early on, because he wrote a very influential article in the early 70s where he argued that even very small search costs can actually create rather large changes in the market in a way that I think economists for sure had not understood. So that generated a lot of work in this area. But at the same time, Mortensen had started working on it as well, and Peter Diamond then went to the efficiency question and studied that. Are markets efficient? What can the government do about it? And that he did over a period of 10-15 years. And I think meanwhile, Mortenson, and somewhat later Pissarides started working more seriously on the labor market application. So they built up to what is now a standard model that all graduate students and all the policymakers in this area kind of know about and have as a key tool for understanding policy analysis.
You mentioned the standard model that's applied. Could you give us examples of how it's applied and what insights it gives us about, to say, for example, the labour market nowadays?
Right. So I mean, when say the Ministry of or in charge of labour market issues wants to think about unemployment benefits, should they increase them? Should they not? Should they decrease them? And it goes up and down in different countries. Then systematically, what are the effects of that? And the Diamond-Mortensen-Pissarides model, as we call it, has been used to show quite clearly that increased unemployment benefits through several channels tends to lead to higher unemployment rates. So you can actually see very clearly by just having the complete picture the way they have served it up for us. Then, of course, the next step is to ask if it's desirable to in this case, it would be decrease the unemployment benefit because that would lower the unemployment rate. But then one has to think about the unemployed workers. If you lower the benefits, it's bad for those who are unemployed, and that's, of course, a trade-off. So before you make policy changes, you have to also consider other aspects like the insurance aspect. So I think policymakers use the model to really highlight these important aspects of the choice of that particular instrument. But it's similar with other changes in labor market regulations. You can sort of feed them through the model and analyze the outcome.
And you mentioned towards the beginning that the model's also used in other situations. You mentioned in the announcement that the housing market was one situation it's used at. Could you give us a bit more detail about how it's used and what information it provides?
Right, so housing market is another example, right? Because we all care about much more than just the price of a house. We wanted to have certain characteristics and qualities that we like. So there's a bunch of people searching for a house, for a home, and a bunch of sellers who like to sell their house. And this takes time, so that sort of fits the general description, first of all. Secondly, in the housing market, there are some interesting things like seasonal fluctuations. I think is an interesting aspect. So you can notice that in the fall, when school starts, there's a lot of houses for sale, and a lot of people are looking for houses. There's actually even a little bit of a seasonal variation in the price. So the price is a little bit higher certain parts of the year. And in a traditional market, this would be arbitraged away by investors. They would make sure, if they know the price is going up, they're going to buy and make money. But because of the search frictions, it doesn't really happen. And we kind of understand now how it's possible with certain seasonal patterns in an asset like a home. So I think it fits the description of search frictions, and B, there's some phenomena in this market that I think are well described if you think about this from a search perspective.
So employment and unemployment and house prices, these are all very relevant, very timely issues around this climate of economic uncertainty that we have right now. Was the timeliness of this one of the reasons why the prize was awarded this year?
No, our decisions are not meant to pick up on events that happened recently. I mean, all the prizes that we award are long-run efforts of the committee to award important economic research that help us in society understand the world better and make the world better. And as you can understand, this has also been research that's been going on since the 70s, and there's no specific aim of the committee to influence the situation right now.
But was there any sort of compelling developments or applications of this model which sort of made it a much more sort of dominant case for selection this year?
It's a good question. I think over the last 10 years, the DMP model, the Diamond-Mortensen-Pissarides framework, really has had a lot of success in entering macroeconomics in a way it hadn't perhaps previously. So I think over the last 10 to 15 years, it's become a cornerstone of how macroeconomists analyze the macroeconomy, of which labor markets and unemployment is really a key piece. So I think in that sense, it sometimes takes time before a framework sinks in and becomes broadly used. And I think that's true, that's such a development that is important.
And my final question is, did you get a chance to speak to the 3 laureates?
Well, one of them was on his way to his home in an airplane, so we discussed the possibility of trying to reach him in the airplane, but decided against it. But yes, I've spoken to Dale Mortensen and to Chris Pisarides, both of them.
And what was their reaction?
They were, of course, very happy and shocked at the same time. So I've been in this situation before, calling up laureates, and it was about an average year. They were happy and humble, and but you can hear that they're very excited too. So,
Professor Krusell, thank you very much. For more information about this prize, please visit nobelprize.org. And to receive regular news updates from nobelprize.org, please visit our Facebook and Twitter channels. That's about it from this live webcast, and indeed a webcast of all the 2010 prize announcements. Our next live webcast will be in December, where we'll be showing all the Nobel lectures and the prize award ceremony. But until then, it's goodbye from all the team at nobelprize.org.